Tonight, new construction is underway for an unprecedented spectacle, a cage fight at the White House. A massive arch taller than the building itself, part of a makeshift arena for an upcoming Ultimate Fighting Championship event.
I have never seen anybody want anything so much as people want those tickets.
Gets you over the top with that right hand.
The mixed martial arts matches are scheduled for June 14th to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. The date for the fight also happens to be President Trump's birthday. It's a remarkable sight, the construction looming over the West Wing and the cranes for the ballroom project on the other side. The president has said that this temporary arena will hold more than 4,000 people.
We are going to pull off the boldest idea in sports history.
Tickets are free, and the UFC is footing the bill for the event. But NBC News has learned sponsorship packages that include ringside seats have been selling for $1 million or more, according to a Republican lobbyist familiar with the process. Decades ago, the president hosted boxing matches at his casinos. And he's often seen at UFC fights.
I know President Trump is a fighter.
UFC's president Dana White endorsing him in 2024.
I'm in the tough guy business, and this man is the toughest, most resilient human being that I've ever met in my life.
Trump supporter and UFC announcer Joe Rogan will be there, though Rogan also called the event a gimmick. Life is a gimmick, the president responded, but it's a good gimmick. It's going to be amazing.
All right, Gabe, we see that construction right there behind you. And to be clear, these will be real fights. This is not an exhibition.
Yes, Tom, MMA fights can get bloody, but the president's been a fan for a long time, and Dana White says it was the president's idea to hold this fight here at the White House. The fighters are even set to walk out from the Oval Office.
What?
Wow. You really can't make it up, man. That's some shit.
So, let me guess. Are we next going to have Michael Vick coming out of retirement, dog fighting at the White House? How would y'all white folks like that? If the next time we get a black president in there, if he decides to build an NBA arena and have the NBA final, I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear nothing. If we get our first woman president and she wants to have the Westminster Dog Show at the White House, right. I don't want to hear shit. I don't want to hear it, because if Obama would have done anything like this, Mel, I remember him putting up that half basketball court, and they was talking about he was demeaning the honor and sacredcy of the White House. They were saying all that bullshit, that horse shit. This man is literally spending money that should be spent on people who can barely get groceries. And when I say that, I'm talking about people who make six figures, folks, who can barely get groceries. We're putting up a UFC ring and we're pretending like it's free when it's not, because they did mention sponsors are paying for this shit. Probably donors to political campaigns is paying for it. All I'm saying is, look, if you want to do this, fine. But when other presidents decide to do it, I want this same fevered pitch. I want this same, oh, you Democrats can't take that. I want all that. I want you to keep that same energy when this becomes a tradition.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the next couple of presidents, Mel, will try to, upscale the joint again, knock down that ballroom, put a law in place that says we're not having fucking WWE matches and shit in the lawn of the White House. We're going to make this place a classy joint. But I don't want to hear no more mess from these folks that claim to be fucking patriots, because the same people, Mel, that complained about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the national anthem are the same people running around here jumping off their couches like fucking spider monkeys, happy that we're getting ready to have the UFC at the White House. Floor is yours, Mel. What do you think?
You asked me, how do I like my White House? I think right now we have to acknowledge that it's a greenhouse.
That's right. That's right.
That it's very easy to get caught up in the explicit and undeniable racism, although people will try to deny. So we don't
Right.
have to waste time, folks, on the like it is what it is.
Right.
People are going to do that. What I would really like for people to pay attention to is, did the Obama basketball court make money and line the pockets of his friends and his own wallet?
That part.
And then oftentimes I think the horrific racism that we see being denied, by the way, is part of the campaign of confusion to keep us from getting actually really upset about the real issue of how they have turned the White House into a money-making machine, regardless of how deplorable the behavior, what they're bringing in. Most Americans, regardless of background or identity, I believe, understanding that this is making money for them and that there are promoters involved and it's a whole fucking gimmick, would be angry, because to your point, the starvation that people are dealing with, I'm somebody who's been very okay, and groceries and eating out, like all of us are feeling that. If you're not a millionaire, you are feeling the pinch, honey. And that divide in classes, socioeconomic classes, is getting bigger and bigger. This is another example of that. They don't care about who they're pissing off, and they're happy that we're upset, so that we can keep going around how horrible it is, when this is just another money-making machine for them.
It's a grift. It's a complete grift.
It's just a grift.
And the basis of this channel is debunking the myths that are put in place to keep us at bay. And while this right here is clearly the problem with laws and order, if nobody's there to enforce it, it's not a law, it's not an order. And people hear this term, the emoluments clause, all the time, how that's supposed to protect the office of the presidency from making money. You've got to have somebody to enforce this shit, and we don't have that.
We don't have that.
All this is another money-making event. I'm hearing the Saudi prince is coming. Now, it wasn't too long. He was supposed to be our enemy when they needed Black people and progressives to rally around Republicans going to war. He was an enemy. Now, all of a sudden, that Trump likes to lick his boots and lick his hind parts.
Yep.
He's our friend,
Oh my God.
really nice guy. I'm going to get his jet from Qatar and shit like, come on, man.
That's right. That's right. And we are not served as a people in getting caught up about how awful and how wrong and how the inequality and how they put, and look at how unclassy, and look at what they did to Obama. We know all that. Accept it as true, so that we can all come together and fight for what is actually ours. That's our money.
That's our money.
Those are our resources. The White House is the house of the people. And they are so good at keeping everybody wrapped up and distracted, because they know once the people really understand that there is no such thing as separateness and otherness, particularly in this fight for our democracy, which is mostly, I don't want to say mostly, but it has a huge capitalist drive behind it. And that's the power we could wield. Once we see that it's about starving us for their benefit, now you have a whole army. Now you have a whole army.
Mel, there's still too many people that
can't
even
see.
Even though they are suffering right now.
Yes.
Their hearts are filled with hate without food on their plate, and they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to how many people, based on the way our voting system and our democracy works, how many people have to get that low before there's a turnaround, before there's a revolt? Because the way our electoral college works, I don't think we're ever going to hit enough people in flyover country to make them feel the pain that you need to vote differently. You need to vote for your own interests. And you see it eroding in the battleground states. You see a lot of them turning around. But flyover country male, the people that triple Trump and are hurting the most, are still enjoying this, because the racism not only divides us because it upsets people, because you know that you're using an advantage to improve your group of people.
That's right.
But it also makes that same group of people happy. It keeps it, instead of them wanting to do better and have better, that alone keeps them happy while the racist rich people continue to pick their pockets clean.
Yeah.
And do it, and they'll do it under the guise of free market capitalism.
That and that we're with you. And I think this is one of the reasons why racism, there was a time where the Psychological Association of the of America, the association that puts out the DSM, the Diagnostic Manual, was talking about actually categorizing racism as its own mental health issue, because there was so much overlap about being disconnected from reality and insisting on believing in facts that are completely like easily debunked, that you have to keep telling yourself a certain story and doing a certain mental gymnastics to keep yourself from seeing clearly that there is something wrong if I am only happy when others are suffering and I can't even see my own suffering or accurately identify the source of my suffering, and keep believing in something like the great replacement theory, which sounds as insane as Jews having space lasers. Like that is, I didn't even know that was real when my Jewish friend told me about the space laser thing when it first came out. And I was like, what are you fucking talking about? And she was like, no, seriously.
You never heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about those space lasers?
I wasn't paying attention. And then when my friend said, knowing that people can convince themselves of something so extraordinary, it is like a mental health. There's so much overlap, and I still think it should be looked at as a mental health issue.
Well, the problem, Mel, is here's the problem. Now, I'm agnostic / atheist. I don't have a problem with anybody practicing their religion as long as their religion is not going to govern my life.
Totally.
As long as they're whatever they want to believe in doesn't create policy for me. But the problem, Mel, is this is what I've noticed as someone who used to be a quote unquote Christian, someone who went to school at Shaw University to become a pastor for like 3-4 weeks or whatever, however long I stayed there. When you learn the Bible and then you start thinking about how to prove things really do what they do, you start distancing yourself from what you see going on in the world. And one thing that Republicans have been the masters of, they know that if they can replace religion with critical thinking and education, that makes those people more susceptible to succumb to their bullshit.
Oh, you mean replacing the critical thinking with the religious ideology?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And it makes them more lucid in the head, and it makes them more susceptible to believing that an earthly person can do all these things. And when they mess up and you feel that pit in your stomach, like something's not right, you'll just disavow that pit because, you're going to believe in God.
Yes.
And time again, you're going to get your little hearts hurt, ladies and gentlemen, doing that with the Trump administration and the Republican Party. But they also know, Mel, that they can use the Republican Party knows they can use those same individuals who are Bible thumpers to also get them to not want to use the government for anything, while the rich Republicans pick the government apart. How these people can continue to call themselves religious when they know Trump has been found liable for sexual assault? There's nothing moralic about that. And you see the grift that he's doing. You see all these other things. We've got to tackle that problem too, Mel.
We do.
Because that is a huge problem. And I don't know, unless Democrats and people who are not paid by AIPAC decide that is going to be an issue we're going to attack, we're going to have a long road to hoe. Floor is yours.
That is what you just said on that. So I had 2 majors in college, and one of them was comparative religious studies. And so I concentrated not on like a theological aspect, but on the impact on society and culture. And what we need to know is exactly what you're pointing out, that human beings are extraordinarily susceptible to storytelling. All of us, we all get off of work so that we can listen to our podcasts, watch our TV. This is human. This is how human brains work. And just being a human being, you're hungry for stories of how to do this life, how to resolve the discomforts of complex human interaction, right?
True.
And
well said.
Thank you. Not bad for late at night. But what I would love for people, and I too don't identify with any particular religion, but what I would love for people who call themselves Christians, particularly Christians who are aligned with a certain Trump kind of Christianity, now what we would call a kind of Trump Christianity, is to do a little bit of research on your own religious history, so that you can recognize that how most Americans talk about Christianity here in the United States isn't anything recognizable to other forms of Christianity in the past or to presently practicing Christians in other parts of the world. So recognizing that we're fracturing a group over and over again to make the story feeding machine more controllable to steer that group. If they knew that this is not how most other Christians can't even really identify with the idea of like, you're gonna die and then people are gonna be left behind after Jesus comes to get you. That's not a thing. And I think that it's useful for people to have a sense of history for their own well-being, for their own choice making. And the other part that you brought up that is so important, most Americans, 56% Americans from the last literacy survey from the ages of 18 to 64 struggle to read above a 6th grade level.
Yep.
That's most Americans. That is heartbreaking. And what that means is that people don't have choice. It's easy to convince people operating under that level of education at that level. You can tell them almost anything, because what do they have to qualify a statement with?
Nothing.
What source do they have?
Nothing.
Right. And so this is where we as a country, as a society, have failed our own people. Education is partly how we got here, the lack of it. And I agree with you about critical thinking, and unless that is actually addressed in a serious way, and other governments have been in our country trying to demean. There's a history of Russia trying to demean the American education system for this very reason. And that sounds so conspiracy, but it's actually just, again, how humanity works. If you can convince people of a story, you can have the Holocaust all over again.
Mm-hmm. Well said, folks. She dropped the mic on that one. I'm not even going to attempt to come behind that, ladies and gentlemen. Well said. Again, this is the Big Homie Mel. Her link is in the description. And in about 4 more minutes, you'll get to hear her story. She's going to tell you guys why you should follow her, why she's such an important piece to making people feel good, and whatever else you want to know, you will have to follow her to find out.